Thanks for joining us on The Big Show. I'm Dan Patrick.
I'm Keith Olbermann. The Tour DuPont is next. Almost said it. We'll see you. Bye.
The city of Greensboro and the Piedmont Triad are all set now to welcome the survivors of the 1995 Tour DuPont. It's the final time trial. By the end of this day, we will know who the winner is. This is the overall classification at the start of the time trial. The American Lance Armstrong is well clear of his teammate Andrea Perron, who has just a bridge of 10 seconds over Vyacheslav Yekimov. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to our exclusive coverage here on ESPN for the final time. I'm Phil Liggett, along with my co-commentator, Davis Phinney. Well, Davis, Lance Armstrong today, it's going to be an all-American tale. He's going to be, he can't be beaten, can he? Let's face it.
Barring an extremely unfortunate incident, Lance should come across the line the 1995 Tour DuPont champion. Somewhat overdue. The man has really come a long way, and he's ridden a tremendous race. But there is a points of pride here today. Vyacheslav Yekimov would like to move into the second position overall and would like to win the stage for Novell. He will have a battle on his hands from Andrea Perron of Motorola. They're only 10 seconds apart. Now, you and I both have talked about it. We would look at maybe Zenon Jaskula from Poland putting in a good ride and possibly winning the stage.
So there are some who could win the stage. We now believe there's only one who can win the race, Lance Armstrong. He's going to feel very content. He is the last of the starters to go out of the start house. The riders coming in behind us at the moment are the early front runners. They won't count on today's stage. Now, let's go back to the very start of this race, to Wilmington, Delaware, and remind ourselves just how Lance Armstrong became the leader of this race. It's early days in the Tour DuPont, but there's been no shortage of action and disappointment in the prologue time trial. A race against the clock. Steve Hague, the champion of the United States, tried but didn't succeed. Jackie Giron, the champion of France, he failed on Monkey Hill. So too did Ron Kiefel, the former US champ. Scott Moninger, they all had trouble on the cobblestones at Monkey Hill. Adriano Baffi, the Italian hope, was in difficulty as well. But there were those who did succeed. Franz Masson, he set the prologue time of 6 minutes and 7 seconds. They were aiming at that time now. Andrea Perron, he beat it with 6.6. Gianluca Bortolami, he set the fastest time of the day, while Malcolm Elliott finished in 7th position. The battle between the top two, Lance Armstrong headed round the prologue course in a great time for him. He beat Vyacheslav Yekimov, last year's champion, but he didn't win the day. The victory went to the new and first yellow jersey, Gianluca Bortolami, on his first visit to the US. And then followed stage one from Dover to Wilmington. The riders were hot. It was a record speed, and the riders mixed it well. Steve Bauer was looking for an early stage victory. He got one last year at Richmond. But the race continued to hold together. Just two riders dangled out front, Bostic and Van Bon. They didn't stay there for long. As the race came down into the finishing line, Malcolm Elliott in third place was sharpening his wheels for a great sprint finish. But first, it was the Americans who led the race out. Eddie Gregas leading out David McCook. McCook, though, had simply gone too soon. The finishing line was not coming quick enough, so Elliott made his move on the inside. Then came the world's great sprinter, Adriano Baffi, to take on Malcolm Elliott. They battled shoulder to shoulder, and it was the Englishman Elliott, the Chevrolet LA Sheriff, who took the prize. So, as he had done last year, he had to lead his yellow jersey, but instead of 3 days like last time, this was to be for just one. On the road to Richmond, it would be a different tale. A breakaway forming just after some 30 miles covered. Jackie Giron was leading for France. George Hincapie was there for the United States. Mapai team had missed the move, and then they really missed the day. Towards the end in Richmond, Lance Armstrong put in a tremendous attack. In sight of the finish, he was clear. He is being hunted by his most feared rival, Vyacheslav Yekimov, who was being trailed by the man who finished third last year, Andrea Perron. Perron is now on the same Motorola team as Lance Armstrong. Yekimov had to catch up with Armstrong. He had no choice but to take Perron with him. And just as they caught Armstrong, Perron launched the attack that decided a most incredible day for Team Motorola. Andrea Perron came home for his second win in as many years in the Tour DuPont. This year he was also the race leader.
And so I beat it at the sprint, but today was a big Motorola work, and this is a Motorola victory besides mine, because the team was awesome. First of all, Lance was great.
So after stage 2, Motorola, for the first time ever in a Tour DuPont, had the race leader, but not with Armstrong, but with Andrea Perron. 5 seconds ahead of Armstrong and Yekimov. First Union's final day coverage of the 1995 Tour DuPont is being brought to you by Fresca, the official soft drink of US cycling. By North Carolina, for a vacation you'll always remember, come to a state you'll never forget. And by Cordura, DuPont Cordura plus nylon, the toughest wear anywhere. So the yellow jersey on the shoulder of Andrea Perron, and now he fights to finish in second place in the final stage of the Tour DuPont. Here he is backstage, waiting for his start in the time trial. It'll be a big day for him, and we'll be back. And welcome back to the Tour DuPont. Let's continue our recap of the story so far. There is nobody off the front. Last year, the Colstrop team took first, second and third, but one guy was away. He was caught on the line. Now they're all together and going for it. Malcolm Elliott's opening up in the centre. Centre stage for Elliott. Abdou Japarov on the left of our picture, storming through. Abdou Japarov just came from nowhere, took it on the line, and that was a great finish. And Robbie McEwen was also there in third place, and he shook his head. In 4 days, the riders in the Tour DuPont have pedalled 292 miles on flat roads, but now the mountains of Virginia await them. The first big decision will be made on this stage of the Tour DuPont. Vyacheslav Yekimov relished the mountains last year. Here in the area of the Roanoke Valley, he laid the foundation for a great victory in this very race. Now the man he beat, can Lance Armstrong ride out of his shadow and into the sun? Armstrong, second these past 2 years, is desperate to win. But there's a third player now. It's Andrea Perron of Italy. He's joined the Motorola team. They have 2 men capable of victory. Vyacheslav Yekimov, he knows it. Today, let battle begin in the high mountains, and may the best man win. Lance Armstrong took control of the race. He did it in the style of all of the great champions. But it wasn't to be that way early on, because while Lance Armstrong was planning his day, there were other riders going out of the race with a chance of overall victory. Gianluca Bortolami, he won the first 2 climbs, and then on the descent of the second one was the right of your picture. Gianluca Bortolami, first around the corner, skidded out. He was to spend the rest of the day following, and by the end of that day would lose more than 23 minutes. His hopes of final victory had gone, but not those of Lance Armstrong. On the climb of Mountain Lake, Armstrong sprouted wings. He went clear before the summit, and he went clear by minutes. And then, when Vyacheslav Yekimov was in trouble, Armstrong's teammate followed Perron. By the finish, Lance Armstrong was a clear leader of this tour. All that's left today, the time trial. Can Yekimov fight back? It's his only chance. Everybody expected that Lance Armstrong would win in the mountains. Yekimov expected now to fight back in the 23 miles time trial. It was stage number 5, a chance for this proud Russian rider to show what he does best. That's racing alone against the clock. But as soon as the race had started, and behind him by 2 minutes was Lance Armstrong, the gaps were big, significantly so in favour of Armstrong. And although the gaps came down as Armstrong fought for the finish, he was to win the stage, surprisingly, by 8 seconds. Lance Armstrong had set a course record time of 56 minutes and 32 seconds. He gained time over Yekimov. This now was the story of a great American bike rider.
Don't tell me we won't get very far. And when we're breaking up the speed limit and chasing away all the cars, it's an afternoon of high-speed racing. Forget the pavement, even there. I feel so good. Think I might start screaming when the wind whips through your hair. Take me out on your bike. Take me out on your bike. Take me out on your bike. I wanna ride, ride, ride. Take me out on your bike. Take me out on your bike, bike. Take me out on your bike. I wanna ride, ride, ride. Wanna ride, ride, ride. Wanna ride, ride, ride. Wanna ride, ride, ride.
Welcome back to the Tour DuPont. We're still with our recap of the coverage so far, and this is the finish in Charlotte for $10,000. Andrea moves across to unleash George Hincapie, but look out here now because Frank Yarno is coming in the yellow. Yarno is coming, Robin McEwen on the far right, Robin McEwen on the far right. It's going to be terribly tight. Yarno has got it. That is only the second win ever in his career. He's got himself $10,000. The next day was the longest stage of the race between Concord and Greenville. The sprinters have been outwitted. Who would win the stage now? Rodriguez is the rider at the back for the United States, the only amateur rider among the breakaways, and it looks as though Brian Walton is going to be forced into the lead-out seat. He wouldn't like to be there, but he's got to be there because they've all got behind him. Van Bonny's tucked in there in second place, and then we've got Vatteroni third. Fred Rodriguez weaving around at the back here. Fred's decided to go. He's gone a long way out, and it's a difficult uphill finish, but Fred's gambling on a long one. Fred has gone. The others have started to react. Van Bonny's now going and digging deep in second place. Jackie Giron is not a sprinter, hanging on at the back. Brian Walton has lost it completely. Rodriguez now still holding on. The line is coming, but is it coming close enough? Van Bonner's gone over the top of him. Leon Van Bon is going to win this one and give Nobel the prize, and it'll only be Van Bon's second ever victory. He takes it easy, and Jackie Giron is second. Vatteroni is third. What a great sprint. This young man, his second year as a professional, has taken this stage in the Tour DuPont. And last Thursday, stage 8 between Greenville and Asheville was a great moment for Sandy Sheehan as she watched her husband Clark make history in the Tour DuPont. He led the race at the time with Jamaluddin Abdul-Jabbar and then alone for 160 miles. He won the race by a handful of seconds, and this was a rider who literally had come back from serious injury in the Tour of Mexico a couple of years ago. Clark Sheehan was the first American-based winner for a number of years in this race, and was he happy for Montgomery Bell? But the very next day, the big boys were out in action again, this time on the climb to the top of Mile High Mountain at Beach Mountain after 120 miles from the Grove Park Inn. It was a showdown for the big men again. Zenon Yaskula was in difficulty on the climb, so too was Andrea Perron, So too is Vyacheslav Yekimov, the man causing the trouble, Lance Armstrong in the yellow jersey. And the last rider to be shed was Laurent Madouas of France. Armstrong went clear with a mile still to climb to the top, and he was waiting for no one, least of all this man, Vyacheslav Yekimov, who by this stage of the race last year was the outright champion. So for the second year in succession, Lance Armstrong was winning the stage at the top of Beach Mountain. He saluted the crowd. He had stage win number 3. The next day was on the long road to Winston-Salem, and it was to provide us with another surprise result. Alves is going to open the sprint, I think. Davydenko is right on his wheel. And look for the right flick here by Alves to call Davydenko through. I'm not sure that was a smart move, because the finish is just on the hill.
I think he went through a little bit more quickly than Norm Alves would have liked, and he has just gone off like a rocket.
So Vasily Davydenko is making no doubt about this one. He's going to win the first stage of the Tour for the Italian Navigare team. Alves will hang on for second place. This the first ever win by this man, who turned professional back in 1993. The feeling will be a good one. So Davydenko got his first win as a pro, but overall there was no change. The time trial will be the showdown. Armstrong, Perron, Yekimov, Mejia, Madouas and Teteria. The two men in charge are the two top boys. On the right, Jim Okovitz of Team Motorola. On the left, Jan Ross of Team Novell. Who would win the time trial? We'll find out when we come back. And so to today, in the final stage of the Tour DuPont, and making the concentration here in the start house, is Andrea Perron. Last year he finished 3rd overall. He's trying to avoid now finishing that same position, but he lies second, but only 10 seconds in front of Vyacheslav Yekimov.
He'll have a hard time holding Vyacheslav Yekimov off, but Motorola would love the 1-2 stack. Ironically, Lance Armstrong offered Andrea Perron his exotic superbike for the time trial, but they couldn't quite fit the position. So he's on his normal bike, but he'll definitely be riding for gold today.
So it's a very important day in the life of the new rider on the Motorola team. He started just 2 minutes in front of Vyacheslav Yekimov. Although Yekimov lies 3rd, he gets to start 2nd from the end, because Andrea Perron and Lance Armstrong are on the same team. So the referees have split them by putting the Russian in between. A little bit of a disadvantage that for Perron, and certainly to the advantage of Yekimov, who is now off and running. This is a great time trial course. It's virtually flat all of the way. The arrival of Lance Armstrong, and he's looking very, very relaxed indeed. And I think, Davis, he's every reason to look relaxed.
He's got such a big lead now that you wouldn't expect Lance to ever get up to a time trial start not tense, but he's completely relaxed. It may be a little bit more difficult for him to get going. Andrea Perron coming up already on his two-man Madouas.
And the split time there, 30 minutes 30 seconds, is the best time so far. Just through ahead of these two riders. Daniel Nardello has gone through in 30 minutes 38 seconds. Perron has gone through 8 seconds quicker than that, with still Yekimov and Armstrong to arrive at that point. But he's taken 2 minutes now off Laurent Madouas of France. Although Madouas here is going to try and hold him in sight. The rules are pretty strict. He can't get closer than 25 yards.
It still helps to have someone just to gauge your pace off of. The heart rate goes up just a little bit, but Madouas can just pick it up enough. Vyacheslav Yekimov looks perfect. He loves this. Look, his fastest split, 21:9:47.
That's the best. That's the best we've seen. He's up now on Perron. Armstrong still to come through. But you know, this man is determined now. It's very important to him personally that he puts in the ride today and, if possible, takes out the stage. The Nobel man really has had to take second seat this year, and last year he led virtually all of the way in the time trials. There's the cheers in the start house. Next man to go through, Lance Armstrong closing down the course now. Last man to start of the 84 riders left in this race. The city of Burlington now waving farewell to Lance Armstrong and wishing him well too. This should be a formality, but it makes one very nervous when you say that.
Lance would love to prove also, Phil, that he is adept at every phase of bike racing. He's struggled in these flat time trials in the past, yet he's improved so much this year. He's a great climber. He won the Roanoke time trial, but he's had a little bit of difficulty in the flatter time trials.
Well, here comes the arrival of Andrea Perron. We know he was the fastest at the check. Now, has he confirmed it with the best time so far? The leading time at the line is 1 hour, 2 minutes and 5 seconds by Daniel Nardello, and that is a ride that's going to lift that youngster up the overall, but it's not going to come close to Perron because he's got the best time. 1 hour, 1 minute and 50 seconds. Perron has done all he can do now to conserve his second place overall, and all he can do now is await to see what Vyacheslav Yekimov can do. There's Lance Armstrong riding the streamlined Lotus bike that he dearly wanted to give to Andrea Perron, but it simply could not be made to fit the Italian because he felt this light bike might have helped Perron hold on to second place overall. Now we're waiting for the arrival of Yekimov, while Lance Armstrong here, for my money, is looking as though he's not slipped into top gear at all today. His time checks are down. Now, here we have Yekimov heading towards the finish and putting every ounce of strength in it. This is going to be a great time.
Yekimov is solid as a rock. He loves this ride. He won it last year, and this is where he excels.
Well, here he comes now. We're watching one of the finest time trial riders in the world. 11 world records this man has held against the watch, and he's not going to be beaten today. Look at the clock. 1 hour, no minutes, 44 seconds, and that for 30 miles is absolutely superb. And Yekimov is going to win the stage now because Armstrong's time checks are all of the time down on Yekimov. So that ride will give Yekimov second overall in this race. Armstrong, although losing time, is not going to lose the best part of 4 minutes he had at the start of this race as he approaches the finish now. But I think, he's going to lose the best part of 2 minutes. He comes up to the line now. Armstrong crossing the line. 1 hour, 2 minutes, 49 seconds for Armstrong. That will place him only 5th on the day. But we have seen the ride of a very relaxed man here in Lance Armstrong. He's lost the stage, he's lost the battle, but he's won the war. Lance Armstrong has won the Tour DuPont, and we're going to see all of the celebrations after this break. And Medalist Sports and DuPont would like to thank Windfall Productions, BMW motorcycles provided courtesy of BMW of North America, motorcycle support provided by Alum International Management Group, remote facilities provided by NEP Super Shooters, microwave camera coverage provided by News Sport Microwave Rental Incorporated.
Andre, without question, has the best return to serve in the game. He's a tough guy to ace.
Becker, she knows the strategy, and he goes out there to really attack his opponent.
First Union's final day coverage of the 1995 Tour DuPont has been brought to you by LabCorp, by the DuPont Corporation, DuPont, better things for better living, and by Medalist Sports. And so the great Soviet rider has redeemed himself, Vyacheslav Yekimov from Russia, the winner of the time trial, the man who was the champion overall a year ago, and he's all smiles. But this man is the winner overall, Lance Armstrong of the United States, and I would imagine the happiest man is Jim Oppovitz of Team Motorola with Davis Phinney.
Jim, congratulations on an absolutely outstanding performance. Maybe you could put into perspective Motorola's dominance of this race, Lance Armstrong's victory, and especially how you feel about having been here all 7 years.
Well, Davis, you know that it was 1989 when we last won this event. We've been waiting since then to do it again. And it hasn't been an easy job, but I'll tell you that we came here on day one to win the race. The team did an outstanding job every day throughout the race, and our objective was to win, and we did just that.
And so Yekimov wins the stage by 1 minute and 5 seconds from Andrea Perron, 1 minute 20 from Nardello, 1:51 from Norm Alvis. Overall, Armstrong, Yekimov, Perron is the final result. What a race. So for only the second time in 7 years, an American rider has run out the winner of the Tour DuPont. But I'll tell you, he was a great winner, wasn't he, Davis?
Lance Armstrong rode a terrific race, and he took on the mantle of Greg LeMond, who was the past American winner of this event. And it couldn't have come at a better time. Lance has a tremendously bright future. He's just 23 years old, so his ascendancy has really just started.
But you can see now why they call the time trial the race of truth. The race isn't finished till the last man arrives on the finish line here in Greensboro. Yekimov today was simply brilliant. He rode so quickly.
Yakimov rode a great ride. He had, as I said at the top of the show, he had some pride at stake.
That's right.
And he really put it to the limit today.
Yeah.
Lance didn't really have the morale, didn't have the emotion that he needed, but he had a big lead going in, and he knew what he had to do, and that was really just contain Yakimov, and he did it well.
Well, all of these riders will now spread their wings around the world and will take part in all the other big races. We can only wish Lance Armstrong a lot of luck for the upcoming Tour de France, but all of these riders, especially from Europe, will come back because they love this race so much. I have to say it, it's one of the finest organised bike races in the world. Until we meet you again next year, I'm Phil Liggett for Davis Phinney, saying goodbye.